Thank you. I think I will stand. I, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of speak one more time to the faculty. I first thought about, doing the typical last lecture with students, but it's just in the class I'm teaching right now and the way we're doing the timing and all, and frankly, you wouldn't be very interested in it, and it wouldn't be all that valuable. So what I really wanted to do was talk to you about the incredible growth and improvement that I've seen in the School of Family Life over the last 33 years. It's remarkable, and I think it's easy to kind of lose track of that sense of history, but you get a chance when you're in this position that I'm in to kind of look back, and it really is just kind of stunning, and to think about the amount of growth and improvement that we've had here. And so I'm going to start history in 1990. There's history that goes before that, but I wasn't a part of it. That's really what I decided I wanted to do. So thanks for listening in. I think actually you'll find it a little bit interesting. If you feel free to chirp in, and especially you old timers here, those of you who are hired before 2000, and maybe maybe even a little bit after that, but you may have some perspectives or want to share some clarifications to what my Swiss cheese memory can recall. One of the first things that came to mind as I was thinking about this was the incredible, maybe even miraculous growth in our human development program. When I came here in 1990, I'm not sure we would even call it a human development program. It was more of an early childhood education program. That's where most people were focused, and there was very little research going on in that field. And Tom Draper did a little bit here and there. Those of you who remember Jean Larson, Jean actually did a little bit in early childhood education kinds of things. But that was about it. I think that was it. And it was not a strength of the program by any means. The most important hire, faculty hire in the last 33 years in the School of Family Life was Craig Hart. And I state that with confidence, that's not opinion. I think that's almost demonstrable fact. The inflection point in our department, but particularly in human development, was dramatic when Craig came here. He quickly influenced students like Larry and Chris, and probably Dave Nelson as well. So he got that pipeline going, and just also changed the curriculum quite a bit. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. And by virtue of his presence here, changed the quality of what we were doing. I don't know that we got any more human development positions, but the whole program within a decade was just dramatically improved. And it's one of the things that I'm looking back on and say, wow, what a change and what a difference. I'm not sure. I was hoping Craig was going to be here because I don't think I've ever expressed that to him personally. And I think I want to. He seems kind of distant from us right now, although I like it that he still pops in, to our faculty meetings now and then. But please don't underestimate the important impact that he had from a program that was not really much. It was, well, no, it wasn't much, to a program that I think is excellent now in its faculty and in its teaching. So that was one. I just wanted to make a brief mention about our Family and Consumer Sciences Education program. When I came here in 1990, the program was a mess. It was just a mess.
I was just holding textiles.
And if we had another hour, we'd go into some of the history of that. I mean, it was a forced marriage. They didn't want to be with us. They were their own department for decades and decades, but there were big problems, and there was a forced marriage, and but it was a mess, and with personality problems and this, that, and the other thing. And so there's been a dramatic change there. I think the hiring of Chris Moore, and then now with Natalie, and the quality of education that the students are getting, it's a smaller program, but the quality of it is much higher. And that really strikes me as well as a pretty dramatic change from where we were to where we are now. Growth in quality, though actually I think a little bit of shrinking in terms of the number of students and number of faculty that we have here. But that, I think, is something else that really stuck out for me. I've also seen our graduate programs improve significantly. When I got here in 1990, we had more than 100 graduate students in our program. Which, what were we thinking? There were about 60 students in marriage and family therapy. You weren't quite one of them, but you would be soon. Were you still there when it was that size?
No, it was coming down.
It was coming down there. In the mid-1990s, I think we had a come to Jesus moment and realized what we were doing. And also as part of a university-wide self-study where we were really looking closely at everything we were doing and say, what can we do better? That's what Elder Bateman, that was one of his first things he did. He says, we're gonna look at every nook and cranny in the university and make some hard decisions. And so one of the things that we decided to do was shrink our graduate program. By the way, we also had a joint PhD program in family studies with sociology, which had about 20 to 25 PhD students who are mostly church education system folks who are upgrading their skills, but were going through the program during their dissertations and that sort of thing. A lot of them are really good, but anyway, we had this enormous number of graduate students. And over a period of about, I don't know, it was probably about 10 years, I think MFT shrunk down to its current size of about 30-ish. Yeah. We did the same thing here in MFHD, and we got rid of the joint PhD program. So down to where we're now at about 60 students, I think, is what we're servicing, providing them very good financial support, very good mentoring, publishing opportunities. The quality of instruction and guidance and mentoring that our graduate students are getting now is so much higher. And I think many of you in this room are the recipients of that. And I think has been important in terms of improving the pool of faculty that we've had as well. But I think that's been a really important upgrade to the program. Again, higher quality with less quantity. Really briefly, one other thought. I sort of went back and forth whether I wanted to share this or not, but I think we've had a significant improvement in faculty governance as well. And you may roll your eyes at that and say, oh, please. But you didn't know what it was like 33 years ago from what Westbrook called it the stake president model. And he wasn't called, he was doing that pejoratively, not compliment. It was this huge, massive department governed by one person. And it was really hard to govern in that way. And I do think the emergence of our executive committee model has made an important difference in the school. It's more governable and it's working better now than it did even 20 years ago, and certainly 30 years ago. Now, we all complain, and that's part of what we do. It's it's our job description to complain about those kinds of things. But it's so much better, that model. And I actually, I was hoping Dean was going to be here. I wanted to actually compliment Dean on cementing that. I mean, we've been kind of going in that direction for a little while, but I think Dean really cemented it. And I do think it's my experience as department chair, I found it incredibly useful. And I think it has really blessed us a lot. So I appreciate Dean's efforts there. I'm probably going to say a few more things about Dean. I think Dean's administration as director of the School of Family Life was the most significant administration that I've seen in 33 years. He took on some really tough kinds of things. And boy, I disagree with him sometimes pretty strongly. But he took on tough things and made some really significant changes. So I hope next time you see Dean, you pat him on the head and tell him thanks for all that pain that he put us through. That was important. Again, I didn't agree with everything and still disagree with some things, but I do think he had more impact as an administrator than anyone in my 33 years, including Jim Harper, which was with us forever and saw us through some important changes. When I came here in 1990, we had either 35 or 36 faculty. I haven't been able to establish the exact, but I think it was either 35 or 36 faculty members. And we've grown by about 20%. We're up to 43. Does that sound right?
44 if you include Laura.
And I do.
Yeah.
And so we've had a 20 to 25% growth in the number of faculty slots. I'll talk about quality here in a minute, but that's not common. We have not seen that level of growth overall in the number of faculty positions in other departments at the university. Ever since I've been here, they've said, no, the number of faculty positions is set in stone. And the number of FTEs is this many, and we don't go asking the church for more. Now, we've had a couple of instances when the church, when our board of trustees has said, here, you can have a few more positions. And so we actually are, when I came here, I think there was 1,300, and I think we're in the 1,400 to 1,500 range now as a university.
It's 1,600 today at the forum.
Oh.
1,600 faculty.
Really?
That's what they said.
Okay, so it has grown a little bit more.
So.
I think we were between 1,300 and 1,400 when I started here. And the student to teacher ratios reflected it. We're still not where we would like to be, but I was teaching upper division classes with 75 students regularly. And I don't see that as nearly as much anymore. So we've been blessed that way. Most of those positions came directly or indirectly as a result of this university-wide self-study process that President Bateman initiated when he came in 95 or 96, I forget which year. And they closed down several departments across campus and reallocated those positions. And that also went along with another thing that President Bateman did is he started a university-wide committee looking at how we were helping to strengthen families here. here at Brigham Young University, and that whole process in the end netted us two extra positions. And one of those was Jason's position. I think the other one, we hired Steve Duncan in it, if I'm remembering correctly. But we got two additional positions, and then as clothing and textiles was shut down, and that was traumatic.
That's terrible.
It was traumatic. And interior design was also shut down
Yeah.
at that time. And we received 4 of those positions to help us maintain and grow our family consumer sciences
So when I was
education.
hired, I replaced a full-time person as a part-time instructor. So they did that to quite a, it's like they kind of weakened it. And then we were weak, so, but they did that, different areas and stuff.
Yeah. And we were the recipients.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
those.
so we came over here.
Yeah, and I think we finally achieved a pretty good working integration
Yeah,
now.
I like you.
And
No.
and I think we appreciate you more. That's been a long and a long history
Yeah.
there. But the other position came is now a Danny Frost position. As the university gave it to us to solidify their commitment to our charge to be public scholars. And so that's where that position came from. But we've grown, and in quantity, which is more so than almost any unit on campus, I would expect. And but more important than that has been the growth in the quality of the faculty. It is just so impressive. And I look at my colleagues, and these aren't the earliest ones because we start in 2000 when Wes Burr retired, but I look at these and I love them, and they did some wonderful things. But the quality of our faculty has just grown by an order of magnitude compared to where we were 33 years ago. And I think that's wonderful. I also want to call out one particular, I think, really important improvement in the School of Family Life. And that was our ability, particularly over the last decade, to bring in such high quality female faculty. And I get a little bit emotional about this because I just think it's one of the most important things that we've been able to do to improve our student experience here. We are 92% female in terms of our majors. And the experience that they get now compared to what it was when I was first here is really important. And I think we still have a little ways to go on our goals to increase the number and proportion of female faculty here. But we've just made such incredible hires, and our student experience is just so much better as a result of that. And I really wanted to make sure. I was asked, Larry and I were on the links last week, and as we were searching for lost golf balls once, I asked Larry what he thought some of the most dramatic improvements in the school were, and that's where Larry went. The first thing came out of his head was that. I don't think we should underestimate that really important change.
But Ellen, you're too humble to what I added to that. So that those in the room know, I remember the faculty meeting that it was Alan who told us we needed to make it a spiritual quest to recruit and figure out how to get women here, and called for a faculty to fast and pray and read the vow. That's how much he was committed to that.
I just think it's been so important. A few more things, but I actually want to backtrack. Craig, if your ears were burning, it's because we were talking about you. One of the things I had mentioned, I think one of the most dramatic improvements in the School of Family Life over the last 33 years has been the growth of our human development program. And I said, and I mean it, that I think the most important hire in the last 33 years in the school has been Craig Hart. I don't think we'd be here, without what you brought and what you helped to build. So
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's been a team effort. We've been blessed with lots of good hires, as you mentioned.
yeah,
And it's really been amazing to see how things have developed. And it's kind of been hard for me not to be a full part of that over
Yeah.
the last 15 years or so after we got to a certain point. But,
anyway,
so kudos to all of you who just made it happen.
one of the, also, I want to talk about teaching and curriculum kinds of things. I've seen incredible improvements there. I'll talk a little bit more about our proclamation classes, SFL 100 and 200 in a minute. But there are others, really important curricular developments that have occurred that you might even find hard to believe. When I first came here, we did not have an adolescent development class. I think we included a little section in 210, I think, is that right? But we did not, at least this is my memory. Tell me if I'm wrong, Larry.
I don't know when Kelly started to teach.
Kelly came in 1995 and we developed the class within a year or two of him coming. So it was late 1990s before we had an adolescent development class, which is why I think the most important classes we have in our curriculum. And it wasn't there. Some of the things that we've developed more recently, our 354 class has been an important development. We were actually a little bit ahead of that wave, that push that said that was going to be important. And I appreciate our executive committee back in the almost 10 years ago that it was saying we need to do better there. Most of you will remember when we started our 315 advanced writing course. I think the jury is still out on whether or not it's worth those resources. We will find out. In a few years, I think we'll get a better picture of that. But that's been a significant thing. Tell me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but I'm pretty sure there was not aging and family class when you were an undergraduate student here.
Yeah, not as an undergrad. I
No.
think Rick.
And we brought Rick Miller in, and so about 22 years ago, we finally got that class going here, but we did not have that as well. Just a few others are I can't imagine us not having a class in our curriculum now focused on media and its effects on family. It's so incredibly important. And that's been a really important addition to our curriculum. When I came here, and for many years since that time, we were not encouraged to teach about sexuality in the department. And those who wanted that would go down to the public health, or what I think they called health education back then, and would take, what was it called?
Social hygiene.
Social hygiene is what it was called.
Wow.
Oh.
I remember back students taking that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
long since the one-
They needed
Shop
something
site.
in that area, yeah.
Wow, what a what?
Um,
All our students can talk about that.
And thanks to Dean and others who were able to push that through. I mean, the culture changed and the times changed, and but incredibly important advance in our curriculum. Now, that class, as I tell students in my writing class get to choose what to write on, and guess what half of them choose to write on? Sex. And it's because they've taken 376. And they are obsessed with sex now. In a good way, in a really, really positive and good way. That's really, our biological foundations class in human development is really important development. And I actually didn't add it here, but now that I think about it, that track that we added has really made a difference. It is really going strong. And is attracting, I think, a little higher quality of students. Would you agree, as well. So I think that's been an important one. We did not have our advanced family process class 30 years ago, or even I think that was about 20 years ago that we put that into the curriculum. Along with our advanced human development, what 490, what is that called?
Advanced issues.
Advanced issues. And those are for, and we did not have family life education, which of course was the greatest mistake. And Steve Duncan developed that class 22 years ago or so. With that, so just the curriculum that we have now is just so much better for the students. And I didn't even mention, sorry, Dave, our religion and families class, but I can't imagine us not having that class as well. The students love it, not a ton take it, but they love it. And I just think it's really important for us to have that in our curriculum.
Pound the pulpit on.
Yeah, okay. But it's not just the curriculum. We did not have an internship program here 30 years ago. Jim Harper noted that failing. I mean, students would do little things like internships, but we did not have a program. And Jim Harper forced us and took a position, and we hired a full-time internship coordinator. Roberta Magarel. Yeah. And did a great job for us, did such a great job that the college stole her. They took the position and the body and made her the college internship director. We grumbled and complained about that, but it's been okay. We've survived that. But we do have a really good internship program, and not a ton, not all of our students take advantage of it, but I think it's a real plus there for us. And the Washington Seminar Program too, very few of our students take advantage of that, unfortunately, but the growth in that program has really blessed a few of our students anyway, in really valuable ways. Our study abroad programs and our experiential learning programs, the growth in those over the last decade have really improved the student experience. And that's been an incredible change, I think, over the last 30 years. I also think we actually have better classroom teaching. You know, and I think about some of the all-stars that we still pay a lot of credit to, the Al Prices, the Brent Barlows, the
Bud Podesta.
Bud Podesta, Lynn Scoresby, were great sages on the stage. And the students loved them, and many of us really loved them, and they made a really important difference in us. But I really think the quality of our teaching has improved. And we've moved away from that kind of sage on a stage model to a more engaging way of reaching students, and also being more current in our fields. We worried that's something that I found a little bit distressing after a few years, and I started to see, but I won't name the name, but a faculty member said I haven't changed my notes in 20 years. Teaching one of our large section classes. And, you know, I think we are better in that way. And I think we do a better job of mentoring as well. Not that there wasn't good mentoring going on. Craig and many others who have done one, Dave, you know, Jason, Mark. I mean, a lot of you for a long time have done some great mentoring, Jeff. You know, but I think it's really improved. Of course, we have more resources with which to do it as well. But our students just have a much richer, better experience. At all levels and all ranges. So many of our students are still very much just sort of kind of personal application focused. I think they're getting a better and richer experience. But our students who also have a little bit more of a career or a professional focus are also getting a dramatically better experience. So let's pat ourselves on the head for that as well. An obvious area of growth has been in the quantity and quality of our scholarship here in the School of Family Life. And I think that's obvious, one that we know. It was when I came here, most of the faculty have been hired in an era when that was a very minor expectation. Yes, please publish 1 or 2 things before you go up for tenure, and that will be fine. And then when I came here, the expectation was, you would publish, try to publish 1 really good thing, 1 first authored thing a year. Maybe 1 other second authored kind of thing with somebody else or something, but 1 or 2 things. In some ways we haven't changed our verbiage that much. We still hear that. Just publish a couple of things, really good things a year, but that's not really our standard. It's been higher than that, and it's not the quantity that I dwell on. The quantity has increased substantially, but it's the quality of the work and where it's getting published and the impact that it's having on the field is really dramatically increased. A really significant reason behind that, of course, is that we've been given greater resources, incredible internal resources to do that. We do a little bit of the external work thing. How's the grant thing coming?
Coming.
Is it coming?
June 22nd.
June 22nd, okay.
We'll see.
Jeremy keeps plugging away at that. Thank you for flying that banner. But the internal funding that Jonathan, I forgot your external grant too, sorry. We've had a few of those, but the internal funding has just been seen incredible growth. I don't even know what number to put on it. It's probably in the thousands of % increase over our time here. And again, Dean deserves some credit for that. He worked hard to do that, and he also pulled some strings, and I think some black magic in there somewhere. And just dramatic, and then just family raised its profile here in the university, and that helped an awful lot. I'll talk about that at the end. But because we've had such incredible increases in resources, that has enabled us to do to do more in terms of quantity, but also the quality. And I also think our evolution, if you will, to a more team-based research project has also made a really important difference. And we started concentrating funds in major data gathering projects, collecting high-end data, if you will, a much better data. But you need really significant resources to do that. But I think that change has really helped us a great deal. And that's not where we were. We were all a bunch of cowboy academic entrepreneurs 30 years ago, just kind of each doing our own thing. Maybe we'd collaborate with a colleague here and there, but it was still really, it was, entrepreneur scholarship, if you will, for the most part. Going to that team-based thing, I think, has made a really big difference in what we do. When I was director of the center, the Family Studies Center for 4 years, we received a fairly significant increase in funds for research here at the university, and was told to share them widely across campus with everyone who's doing family-related research, and we did, and we really saw a growth. But at the end of that, my feeling was, this is only going to get us so far. We've got to get to high data quality collection. That's what's going to bring us to the next level. And I couldn't convince our good friend Russ Crane to do that, but his successor, Randy Day, saw the same thing and started us more in that direction along with Dean, and worked hard during his years to help get those projects off the ground, create and practitioner research network and media and Adept and Pacific and American Families of Faith. And we've got, I don't know, 6 or 7 of those projects now that have just, well, I forgot, Flourishing Families was our seminal project, which we don't do as much with right now, although I think it still could be very fruitful. But that has made an incredible difference in the quality as well as the quantity of what we've done, not just for ourselves, by the way, but for probably even, well, I don't know, more so, but for our students, our graduate students who get to work with first-class data on the questions that they're trying to address. And so instead of getting a $500 grant to be able to interview a few people or to do this or that, and to take on a little question with a subpar data set, they are now working with some of the best data that are out there. And that's really blessed their lives. And I think that's helped them move on to some of the best doctoral programs and even come back here. I don't know, some of you could disagree with me or affirm it, but I think we've seen that pattern here now. Oh, I didn't mention our sexuality project. Sorry, that's been an important one too. You guys stay under the radar a lot with that project. Which is probably appropriate given the topic. It's probably best to kind of keep a little more low key there. But I think that's been such a wonderful improvement here in the School of Family Life. And of course, you knew I couldn't get off this topic without talking about one of our most recent changes, and that is our growth in public scholarship here in the department. And almost 10 years now since the first invitation was given to us. 2014, I think, was the first time that invitation came. And so we've had almost a decade. I think we've seen some really important growth there, quantity and quality, a new position. I think we're primed for another level of growth now with Wheatley and the funds that are there. I think Wheatley can take us to another level, Jason, and so I'm really excited that of the way things are going there and the opportunities for us to get more support for that. And I hope that we'll continue that trajectory here because our voice should be bigger than just to other academics out there. I think we have something to say, something important to say, and I like the way we've done our model and approach, and the way that we've made this something that our junior faculty can kind of more watch and observe, and then wait until they kind of get to be senior faculty, and then maybe give it more attention. I think that's the right model as well. I think that has been an important change and improvement in what we've done. Maybe 2 other quick things, and then I'd actually love to hear some of your reaction to this. But in all of what we've been doing in terms of improving our scholarship, I'm still impressed about how student-centered we are. And I think we have President Worthen to thank for this. He really was able to institutionalize that element. We have had that conversation for 33 years. Every 3 or 4 years at the university forum, beginning of the year, the president would stand up and say, "Who are we?" And we've been talking to the board of trustees, and I think we finally figured it out. And figured out it can work. Not only can it work, but it's a really cool space that we're in. We're doing great stuff, but we're still focused very much on our students. And I just think it's a wonderful place to be. It feels good. And I'm impressed that we have been able to do all that we've done, but still keep that very it's a different kind of thing, but to say it's an undergraduate oriented institution, I don't know, that word just doesn't quite describe it to me. I like the sort of the student-centered term that President Worthen has used. And I'm really impressed with that. The biggest change I've seen in the last 33 years was not something that we did, but it was, if you will, an external source. And you're probably not going to be surprised, but the most significant thing that has occurred in the past 33 years that's affected the School of Family Life has been the Proclamation on the Family, which was issued more than 25 years ago. And it started some things in the mid-1990s at the university thinking more, but our profile has been higher, the resources greater. What we have taught and how we have taught has been influenced by that document. And I do think the development of our proclamation class, what I've called the proclamation class, that's not what it's called, but that's a term I was using 20 plus years ago, has been really important. It's changed over time. When we first did it, well, this university-wide committee looking at how we can strengthen what we do for families here at BYU seriously considered the possibility of requiring a family strengthening class of all BYU students. And we talked really seriously about it. And then, like most discussions, they quickly break down when you start to think about the resources involved. And the university was just not in a position to be able to put the resources into what it would take to teach, not mega sections, but we were talking about classes with 40 to 50 students. And to teach every BYU student this class, we did not have the resources. So the university encouraged us to go forward and include this proclamation focused class as our foundations class in the School of Family Life. But they encouraged us to open the class up to everyone on campus. And we did so through some marketing things. And in some of you are here, Dave taught it, and I think Mark taught it early on, Jason taught it early on, Jeff taught it early on. Yeah, Larry did too. Early on, half the class, half of the students in our classes were non-majors. And we had men in the class. Imagine that, actually having men in one of our classes. And it was great. It was fun to teach that. Changes occur, life, all goes on, and the world isn't static. And changes occurred at the university that affected that class. And it was no longer had GE status and some other things. But I think its resurrection in the SFL 200, where now a family class is required of all students, and then what we're doing with our SFL 200. I really do think that has been one of the most important things that we have done for the university here. And sort of goes right along with that, the edited volumes that we've done, the 4 edited volumes that we've done to assist with that class has been really important. And we've done it out of our hides, frankly. It's just, it's not something that we really get rewarded for very much, but it's something really, really important that we've done. That the family proclamation has increased increased the luminosity here at the university on family things, and as a result, I think has been directly responsible for a lot of the resources that have flowed here. And I would argue that there is, we don't have, I guess we can't call it the spirit of Elijah, but there is a spirit of the proclamation that rests on the university, and that has, I think, energized and improved everything that we've done. And we can get a little bit too, well, we can take it for granted too much, but it has made an incredible difference. And I think we'll continue to do so. And I think will bless us for that. So that's the school. I'm going to take 2 minutes to do one last thing on a little personal reflection. I've been so privileged to be able to work in a really unique space as a professor here in the School of Family Life. And in this, I'm talking about my own research and scholarship and outreach efforts. I've been uniquely blessed to be able to work in this space, that this research practice policy space that you talk about when you write your discussion sections, but wonder if it ever really exists. And I'm here to tell you it does. It exists. It's really fun. And it's really cool space. I was just on a Zoom call with 3 other very notable scholars just before our 3 o'clock meeting, and talking about a panel that we're doing at a conference next month. And these were really, really, really good researchers who are talking about research that affects practice and that's supported by policy, dollars that come through policy initiatives, and are working in this space, this research practice policy outreach space that is really challenging, intellectually challenging, but incredibly rewarding as well. And so I'm just very grateful for the opportunity that I had to do that. That has really enriched my career, and would encourage all of you, when you do have those opportunities, or actually even to seek out those opportunities. I've been I need to knock on Sarah Coyne's door and point my finger at her nose and say, you've got to be in that space. We've got a wave of policy and legislation coming around regulating media to help parents out, because it's, yeah, we got to help parents out, but they need more than just try this trick. They need a little more help than that. And I think Sarah could be so good in that space, and I think many of you will have that chance in your careers to blend those things together. Don't run from it screaming. It's fun. It's worth it. So I wanted to get that in at the end here. That's all I have. Thank you for listening to my rantings about where we've been over the last 33 years. And I'd love to hear some of your reactions to this. Anyway, and thanks for the time.